Hello and welcome back to The Stumble. This is part 2 of my conversation with Attorney General Alberto Gonzales and his wife, Becky, recorded in the Attorney General's office at Belmont University in Nashville. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I encourage you to start there, because this week, the story takes a turn. We pick back up after Becky Gonzales has just told her husband, White House counsel Alberto Gonzales, that they are broke and he needs to leave government service to go make money. They have 3 sons and no money saved for tuition. Alberto tells the president this news, and President Bush says, "I've got plans for you. Please stay." And then, the day after the 2004 election, President Bush asked him to become the 80th Attorney General of the United States. But 2 years later, everything fell apart in a scandal that would become known as the U.S. Attorney Scandal. While people considered it remarkable at the time, by today's standards, it wouldn't even register, truly. And what the Gonzaleses thought would be a dream job ended up in a political firestorm. Eventually, President Bush asked Judge Gonzales to resign. Over time, the Wall Street Journal would call the scandal much ado about nothing. But at the time, it was devastating. And what followed is what Becky calls the wilderness years. The phone stopped ringing, friends simply vanished, and job opportunities disappeared like steam. Becky said the pain was so deep they sat side by side in silence because the words wouldn't come. But they held onto love, onto faith, and onto their family mantra, "It's got to work out." And eventually it did, not in the way they ever imagined. I'll let you hear it from them. Here are Attorney General Alberto Gonzales and Becky Gonzales. Judge Gonzales and Mrs. Gonzales, thank you for coming back.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to move now to the spring of 2007. You're the sitting Attorney General. And in that spring, a series of events emerged that is now known as, colloquially known as the U.S. Attorney Scandal. But for context, it was a series of events that now would not even make page B75 of the New York Times. In fact, the Wall Street Journal has subsequently called it much ado about nothing. And so I wonder if just briefly you can describe what happened.
Sure. So at the beginning of the second term, like in most administrations, often you'll see turnover in high-profile positions. And so I'm the Attorney General, and the White House has asked me to look at the U.S. attorneys because that's an area where a Republican a president has the opportunity to credential an up-and-coming star around the country and give them some great experience. And so directed to look at various U.S. attorneys around the country. And so my team did that, and we identified, 5 to 7, and made a recommendation. A lot of people think that that I fired them. I don't have the authority to fire a presidential appointee.
Right.
They're appointed by the president. I can't fire them. But I was asked to look at these, and working with my team, submitted some names, and they had served their full 4-year term, their statutory term, and they served with the pleasure of the president. So, he can remove them. And that's what we did. We made a change. What we failed to realize, though, is that the Democrats had taken control of the Senate. And so immediately there were, accusations that these U.S. attorneys had been improperly removed. And that began a series of, more accusations and hearings, and me having to go up to the Hill testify to try to defend these removals. Mm-hmm. What made it difficult for me at the time was I tried to be respectful of these individuals in explaining why they were removed. You don't want to say, we just thought they weren't doing a good job. We wanted better people. And so, when I look back at some of my testimony, I probably could have been, I could have done it in a way that I think may have cut off some of the criticism and accusations, but nonetheless, the Democrats were making the accusation that they had been removed for improper political reasons, and that continued for quite some period of time. And there were a number of hearings. It got pretty serious. I remember one time, President Bush, from time to time, when I would see him, he would make sure, he said, "Are you okay, Fredo?" That was my nickname, Fredo.
Yeah, why did he call you Fredo?
I think it was because early on, maybe he thought my name was Alfredo instead of Alberto. I don't know.
But you don't really know.
But I don't know.
You have lots of nicknames for lots of people.
Exactly.
Right?
So he even told me one time when he had gone to Mexico, the president of Mexico had said, "Is there something we can do to help Al Gonzales?" I mean, my goodness. People were stepping up and saying, "What can we do to help the Attorney General?" It was tough. It really was. And because I knew that we'd done nothing wrong. And but the Democrats kept pushing this. I think part of it was two other reasons. One, I think there was concern Bush was going to put him on the Supreme Court. Yeah. I think the Democrats did not want a Republican president to put the first Hispanic on the Supreme Court. And two, because I've been White House counsel when a lot of these controversial terrorism practices occurred, although most, if not all, were lawful, I was viewed as the architect. Even though John Ashcroft was the Attorney General, it was his Department of Justice that had issued all these legal opinions. Nonetheless, I was sort of viewed as responsible for everything. And I think the Democrats viewed this as a way to hurt President Bush, hurt the Republican brand, to keep me off the court, and to, punish, I guess, the administration for some of the terrorism policies.
But this is one of the foreshadowings. This moment in time was one of the foreshadowings of how Washington works, because there was a sitting senator from a particular state who had been lobbying to a Democratic senator who had been lobbying Al to get rid of this U.S. attorney. And yet, when he got rid of this U.S. attorney, that same person, that same senator, stabbed Al in the back about how the injustice of what he has done.
After asking him to do it.
After asking him for a long time to do it. Wanting this person gone. Because I remember the names, but I'm not going to say them.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about names. Sure. But anyway.
Sure. Yeah. So, it was so political, though. The point was people will do anything to get power. And I think it also was a build up to the next election. The Democrats wanted to make sure that the next president was going to be a Democrat. And I think the Republicans were trying to make sure the next president was going to be a Republican. And I think that had a lot to do with our fate.
Sure.
In D.C.
Sure. What was that moment like for you as you started to see the way that power corrupts people, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, Becky? When you
what was it like for me?
Yeah, when you saw the senator turn his back on the judge, or I would imagine friends of yours who were friendly
But
beforehand.
I almost expected it of the Democrats. But when it happened with our Republican friends, it was quite shocking.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, people that were even friends turned their backs.
Is that right?
Just people that worked in the White House. Yeah.
Turn their backs. What did that mean? What did that look like?
Painful. It was very painful.
And when you say turned their backs, what do you mean?
When the only person in D.C. that was supporting Al, defending him at one point, was the president.
This investigation is taking a long time. It's kind of being drug out. I suspect for political reasons. That I was just, as I mentioned the other day, it's just grand political theater. If Attorney General Gonzales has testified, he produced documents. I would hope the Senate and the Congress would move expeditiously to finish their hearings and get on to the business of passing legislation that is meaningful for the country. I've got confidence in Al Gonzales doing the job.
And, I was calling people in the White House saying, what are we doing? What's the plan? What's the strategy? And I remember CNN called on they did a story about Al, and a very negative story. And then they said, and at the end of the interview, they said, at the end of the story, they said, we've called the White House for comment and asked if someone would come on, and we didn't get a response.
Wow.
And that's when I knew this was bigger than Al. This was because I knew they loved him, and I knew they were our friends. Mm-hmm. But there was a bigger mission, and I think then the mission was to go a more conservative direction.
Yeah.
To try and make sure that the next election was secure.
Would swing the right way. So in August of 2007, President Bush asks you to consider resigning. And can you tell us about that moment and then what you and Becky did together afterward?
Well, it was in the summer. I thought we had survived things. Things had calmed down, and I thought everything was going to be all right. And we were in Austin, heading back, and I got a call from Josh Bolton, the chief of staff. And Josh said, Al, he said something like, we understand there's talk about maybe possible impeachment against you when they come back, and the president doesn't want to see that happen. And the best thing may be for you to step down. And to be honest with you, it sort of took me aback. I was surprised. And I asked Josh, I said, Josh, does the president know about this call? And he said, yes. And that's when I knew, okay, it's done. I mean, I could have called the president and pleaded my case, but I wasn't going to do that. He's the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay. And I said, we made arrangements to go to Crawford. Mm-hmm. And that was tough.
The president actually called us when we were in the car.
Yeah, the president also called in the car, and it was just, it was hard.
Take us that moment. So you fly on a plane, FBI plane.
Yeah, I mean we fly up to Crawford and drive up, and Bush hugs me, and Laura's there, and we go inside and we have lunch, and I have some great pictures of that event. Bush and I are sitting on the porch. Mm. He's got his cowboy boots on, his hat on, and telling me how things will be better as we move on. But it was a period. I feel like I had failed. And
why?
Didn't finish the mission. But you didn't.
Do what?
You didn't fail.
No, I didn't fail, but
yeah. Becky, what's that moment like for you? So you fly down to Crawford together. What's going through your head as you fly down?
Oh, this is the end of a journey. Deeply sad time.
Yeah.
It was a deeply sad time, I think, because I knew when we came back from that trip that Al would announce. Mm-hmm. Right then. And as hectic as it all was, and as the chaoticness of our life was going to slow down, I didn't want it to slow down like this. I didn't want it to be like this. So it was very, very sad.
And what was the flight back like?
I don't remember the flight back.
No.
I'm sure it was very, very quiet.
I'm
not even sure we even told the agents, but they knew. They
knew because when the president called, they had to get out of the car.
Yeah, so we asked them to leave the car, and so I think that they knew something serious was happening, and I suspect the president's detail told our detail what was going on, and the other thing I think I really hated leaving him.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that? No. Becky, I want to turn to you.
Okay.
The phone, you told me as we were preparing for this discussion that in that season, especially after the judge announced his resignation, that the phone stopped ringing and that social invitations vanished. And I wonder, did any of your friends stick with you?
They did. They did. The day of Al's resignation speech.
You mean at Justice? Main Justice?
At Justice.
Yeah.
Ann Johnson, Clay Johnson's wife, called and said, "We're taking you guys to dinner."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and we met him for dinner, and of course, we still had the detail and all of that, so people knew I was in the restaurant, and it was just like Clay and Ann just saying, "We're gonna go somewhere, and people are gonna see you out having dinner." It was a kind thing, and they've continued to be that kind friend, and we had many great friends, both in D.C. and Texas and Houston, who did all kinds of kind things for us and to us during those years.
Like what?
Gave out consulting work and financial help at one point that was so appreciated.
We had one gentleman who we didn't know from Dallas who owned a place up in Montana and said, "Go on up and take your
family and go rest and get away from everything."
No kidding. And you didn't know him?
No, we didn't know him. We had this was like, how are we going to pay our bills? I didn't have a job, and he didn't have a job, and he couldn't get a job. And we're trying to figure out how to stay in our house. And we had a banker in New Orleans who was a friend of someone close to us who said, "I'm going to give you a $100,000 unsecured loan to get you guys through this until the next thing comes." And, we'd use it if we needed it. We didn't use it if we didn't need it. Pay it back. He'd renew it just in case we needed it, even when we weren't using it. He was it's
amazing.
Just this kind person who said, "I think you've got a bad deal and you've served our country and I want to help." And, just the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we've tried to make that kind of a cornerstone of our lives to try and pay it forward and try and be generous and try and, if you see a need, help with the need, both in our families and with our friends and with people we don't know. We're not wealthy like many, many people that we know or that are in our orbit, and yet we're rich. We're rich in love. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, can you say more about that? When you say we're not wealthy but we're rich, what does that mean?
I think that what I always wanted was a home, and he's my home. I mean, he is. We've been married 35 years. Can you believe it? We're old. I've had a home the whole time, and it didn't matter where we lived, and it really didn't matter how much money we made. I mean, it was tough sometimes, but it was awesome.
I wouldn't change a thing.
No, I'd change a few things.
I know, but I mean, when I look back at my life and the things that we've been able to do.
I know, and where we at, and where it brought us, and where we're at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Judge, in preparation for this discussion, one of the things I did was look through your resignation event, your last day as Attorney General, and many people.
Were you there, Jonathan?
I was not there.
Okay.
No, I was down the street at the White House that day, but many people spoke. The director of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the director of the FBI, and on and on and on. And more than 15 times in that short event, people spoke about your Grace Under Fire.
It's true.
And your class. And I wonder if in thinking about your parents and what they taught you, I wonder was your mom there that day? Did she see you that day?
No. She was there the swearing in.
Huh? She was there at the swearing in.
Yeah, but she wasn't there that day.
Where did you learn those traits of grace under fire?
Well, I don't know about grace under fire.
Grace under pressure, 15 times. They said it 15 times. I counted because it was so, as I read the transcript, it was so striking. Person after person said this man.
No, I'm not saying they didn't say it.
Ah.
I'm just not sure that the grace that
It was grace under pressure. That's what they said. Grace under pressure and humility under fire.
Can I say that in the governor's office was the first time I recognized that Al had this ability to stay calm when other people didn't.
It is true.
And he had this ability also to bring people's pressure down. When something was going on, it was like he wasn't going to get rattled. And I kept thinking, he's a diplomat. I had no idea, because at Vincent Elkins, this talent was wasted. So.
Yeah, I think you learn a lot of it from your parents. I mean, my parents they were humble. They were, pardon me? Louder. Don't be so humble. So I would, it's just been my personality. You don't show off. We grew up poor. I mean, that's just the way that I was raised.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I learned a lot from the president. Extremely gracious and loyal. These are all great traits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a letter behind you from the president. There's a photo of you in the Oval Office. And I'm not sure if it's the letter I'm about to quote from or not, but when on your last day in office as Attorney General.
That's not it.
It's not it, yeah.
Well,
but on your last day, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll let you finish, then I may have to correct you.
I hope you do. I hope you do. Wouldn't be the first time, and it sure won't be the last. So President Bush wrote you this handwritten note that said, in part, Washington, D.C. is a treacherous place. Ambition and pettiness often displace statesmanship and service. And when that happens, individuals are treated unfairly. This happened to you. During the last months, you have maintained your composure and dignity. Your class shined brightly. Your inner soul was strong. And I wonder what it meant to you to get that letter from your boss and your friend and the president.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, the letter was written because I just looked at it before you got here, August 27th. So it was the day, either the day of or the day after we left Crawford. It wasn't when I resigned, so it was in advance. He knew what was happening. And it's what I would have expected from him. I mean, wasn't surprised.
Becky, what did it mean to you to see that letter from the President of the United States?
Consistency. It's who he was and how he always treated us, how he always treated Al. And, there was so much reassurance to us with them, both as leaders, but also more as family. They were each other's important persons. It wasn't, they weren't looking outside for other people. They were that to each other. They modeled that for all of us.
And that's President and Mrs. Bush.
Yeah. And I don't think it was just
it wasn't
me
just
and
for
Becky.
us.
I think it was other members of that circle, particularly those of us who started with him in Austin and then go up to D.C. We all became part of a family.
Yeah, yeah. And they were affectionate with each other and made sure that we all knew that they were taking care of each other and that we needed to take care of each other. They modeled that for us.
Incredible.
So they just have so much integrity and dignity and good people. We love them.
This morning, Attorney General Alberto Gonzales announced that he will leave the Department of Justice after 2.5 years of service to the department. Al Gonzales is a man of integrity, decency, and principle. And I have reluctantly accepted his resignation with great appreciation for the service that he has provided for our country. As Attorney General and before that as White House counsel, Al Gonzales has played a critical role in shaping our policies in the war on terror and has worked tirelessly to make this country safer. Under his leadership, the Justice Department has made a priority of protecting children from internet predators. We've made enforcement of civil rights laws a top priority. He aggressively and successfully pursued public corruption. and effectively combated gang violence. In the long course of our work together, this trusted advisor became a close friend. These various positions have required sacrifice from Al, his wife Becky, their sons Jared, Graham, and Gabriel. And I thank them for their service to the country. After months of unfair treatment that has created a harmful distraction at the Justice Department, Judge Gonzales decided to resign his position, and I accept his decision. It's sad that we live in a time when a talented and honorable person like Alberto Gonzales is impeding from doing important work because his good name was dragged through the mud for political reasons.
Do you still talk to them?
Not that often.
I haven't talked to him in a while. I can't imagine I can't imagine how he feels about things that are happening in Washington or this country today.
But he wouldn't say it.
He would never speak publicly about or be critical about what's going on. But I have a pretty good idea of how he feels.
So let's talk now about these, what I call, and Becky, you called the wilderness years. And so you leave your role as Attorney General. And Becky, I wonder if you can describe what that transition was like as the judge stepped away from his role and how your lives changed and what you did first.
Well, first of all, what did you do your first day after you resigned?
I can't remember. What did I do?
You drove the boys to school. You hadn't driven in years.
Well, not only that.
You drove them to the bus stop.
I remember waking up, looking out the window to see if my detail was there or not. Of course, they weren't there.
Sure.
That's when I was no longer Attorney General. And I drove our sons to the bus stop, and I realized how much I'd missed of their childhood.
Because he was driving them to high school and junior high.
It was just, that was really something that I remember. And then the other thing I remember, those early days and weeks, when I was the Attorney General, I would often ride a bike along the Potomac River. There's a beautiful bike path, and my detail would follow behind me. And we used to do this all the time after work. And then afterwards, when I'd left the department, I would be on that same bike path, but I'd be by myself. So it was really a symbolic of me being alone, just riding my bike by myself, wondering, okay, what's going to happen next? And it was a lonely period. A lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen.
It was lonely between us.
I think so. I probably was.
We didn't talk much for a good period of time. I think we were both hurting, and we couldn't support each other in the hurt, so we didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
That's how we got through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about riding your bike, and I'm just going to inject a little levity here. There was a story
called
The Wheel.
I know what story you're talking about.
We all know.
There's a Washington Post story called The Wheels of Justice that talks about you riding your bike. It was a profile of you as a bike rider, and among other things, it talked about your thighs like tree trunks. I wonder how you felt about seeing your legs described that way.
Put my muscles.
Yeah, that was a woman reporter, I remember. She came to the school, too.
Yeah,
she came to the kids' school.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Thighs like tree trunks. I think that's great.
Okay.
So you have this period where you're the wilderness. You're out of office. You're not talking. You're both lonely. And lonely with each other, as you've said. And Judge, in your book, you talk about looking for work after leaving that role and not finding it for a long time. And you write in those years, they were a time of reflection and growth, and that you needed time for wounds to heal. And I wonder what that means.
Well, I mean, it hurt. It hurt us.
It hurt a lot. And it wasn't that he didn't have any work. He did consulting work and he gave speeches.
Things like that.
But the you're going to be okay work didn't come.
Yeah.
Like the partnership at a white shoe firm or that kind of thing.
And the really big disappointment was my old firm in Houston.
Who had the entire time we were in D.C.,
touted the fact.
They would just go on and on and on. Al, you have a home here. When this is over, we are your home. You're going to be, and they disappeared like steam.
And you know, and as I write in my book, a certain understanding in that when I left, there were still ongoing investigations by the IG. Mm-hmm. Congress is still looking at this issue, and I can somewhat understand that.
Well, at the time we could understand because of those, but
that
there's no reason for later.
And so that was disappointing. I mean, a former Supreme Court Justice, Attorney General of the United States, Counsel to the President, Harvard Law grad.
Can't get a job.
And you're not interested in hiring back a former partner. So if my old firm's not willing to hire me, what other firm's going to hire me? So that said a lot. And that was very disappointing. But in hindsight, you know what? I think I would have been miserable. After all the things that I'd done. Law practice is, I mean, it's fine. But I would have been probably bored after a few years and been looking for something else. And so I think it was God's way of saying, just be patient and, you know, things are going to work out for you. So, but it was tough. But talking about sort of going in, becoming anonymous, one of those first early weeks, I'd gone to our cleaners, and I'm standing there at the counter of the cleaners, and the couple walks in, and I'm just standing there waiting for my clothes. And the woman looks at me and says to her, I guess, boyfriend or husband, well, it says to me, she says, you know, you look just like our good friend Paul Reyes or something like that. And I said, oh, really? And then she says, yeah, everybody says he looks like Al Gonzales. That's when you know you're nobody. So anyway.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Becky, in April 2008, about 8 months after the judge left office, the New York Times reported that he was having a hard time finding a job, a story just about that. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what it was like for you to see that headline.
Difficult. It was, I mean, you know, it always felt like things would calm down and then there would be another media story that would rock the boat again. And that was just one of many, but it felt terrible. So qualified, so competent, so accomplished.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to make offers, and it was really crazy.
What held you, Becky, during that time? What anchored
each other?
Each
Faith.
other. I think the and faith. I think we both were kind of in a, we've got to get through this. What's this? Is it Winston Churchill? When you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
I think we both kind of had those blinders on. We're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. And we had to do it.
You know, I would be reminded when I would think about, well, how's this going to work out? When my dad, growing up as a boy, you know, we'd have working on some kind of problem or something. I said, how's this going to work out, Dad? He says, it's got to work out. As simple as that. Just total confidence. It's got to work out. So,
and Al has lived by that. Yeah. That's been a kind of a mantra. It'll work out.
It's going to work out. It's got to work out. So,
and it did work out.
Eventually, we knew that it would get through this, and we did.
There's this great love story that emerges. You guys survived these 5 years in the wilderness, and
you made me sound like Moses or something.
I think there is
Hispanic
actually something.
Moses.
Hispanic Moses. That's.
Oh yeah.
He was flawed too.
Yes, he was.
So, when does the loneliness between the two of you thaw, and you kind of begin holding hands? And Becky, you talked about that together. You turned toward each other.
I think it helped when it was. It's really. I was going to say when we got back to Texas, but it was before that. I think church and our friends that stuck with us and neighbors that were kind and you know, I think that darkness was not 5 years. It wasn't even close.
No.
It was months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
Where we were just so shaken up.
Yeah.
And, but also you could kind of see glimpses of light where he was really spending time with Graham and Gabriel. And I think getting to know him, and I was watching him get to know them. And it was good for them. It was good for him. It was great for me. So there was light.
But it was good going back to Texas. In fact, when we went to Washington, I always assumed that
Houston,
that we would go
or
back
Austin.
We'd go back to Houston or Austin, and so we were given the opportunity to go to Texas Tech and Lubbock, and just going back to Texas was good for us.
Yeah.
It was good for our boys too.
Yeah. Going back to a quiet community, and
why was it good for them, the boys specifically?
just out of Washington, I think it'd be good. And
It's a small town
Yeah.
on a grid. You don't get lost, and people were kind and welcoming. And the boys went from overcrowded schools where they didn't really get to participate. The top elite, athletes got to be on the soccer team or the football team, and we went to a small town where they got to do everything they wanted to do, and it was just a simpler life,
it
a
was very
quieter
simple.
life.
It's good for us.
It was good for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Judge, you wrote in your book that in this season, this is a quote, you said, "God had never left me or forsaken me. Indeed, he'd been there all the time." And I wonder what it meant to you that God had never left you and how your faith changed.
Well, I mean, it was clear to me that this is all part of the plan. I mean,
What does that mean?
I'd been given all these wonderful opportunities, and that was part of the plan. And now this is part of it as well. And
The
so
hard part was part of the plan.
was
hard
part of
part
the
was
plan.
hard.
And so I think it made us stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me an opportunity to spend more time with the boys, as Becky said. And so, we went back to a community in Texas where it's not Washington. I mean, they're Texans, and they loved us, and it was good.
It was great.
It was really, really good. And
But we kept wondering why we couldn't buy a house there. Why our roots weren't being put down.
we never bought
questioning.
a house there. And then, of course, the whole thing with Belmont came along.
So we're going to get there, but I want, Becky, before this discussion, you told me that you had watched the judge's former colleagues get jobs at places like Walmart and Google and Meta. And then you told me that if the judge had landed a role in a firm like that, you might have earned a lot of money, but it wouldn't have let you craft the life that you wanted. What does that mean?
Well, I think those kind of jobs come with a high price, just like Washington did.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we finally had time for each other. And, one of the things I think I missed during the years of his career soaring was I wanted his attention. I wanted more of his attention, and there just wasn't time.
Yeah.
And I think the gift has been the time that we've had. And I think one of those jobs would have been like the White House or,
I mean, they're great jobs. And
they're great jobs.
I'm delighted that people that used to work for me or have gotten these great positions. I think that's a testament to hopefully some lessons that they learned from me. And, seeing Brett Kavanaugh, who was here, I guess, a few months ago, and others, John Roberts was also here. We put him on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Sam Alito is here because we put him on the Supreme. I mean, you see these people.
Neil Gorsuch, did Gorsuch work for you as well?
Neil was, he would come to my
Justice.
senior staff meetings at Justice. And for me, it's been gratifying to help people get these positions. For example,
Ted
Ted Elliott, who was my chief of staff, was with me at the counsel's office and my chief of staff. I helped him get his position as general counsel of the NFL. And so, I love doing that.
That was just this year.
Yeah,
This past year.
So
Amazing.
I love seeing these people do these great things, and I'm not surprised because they all graduated from Ivy League schools. They all clerked at the Supreme Court. These were like superstars, and so I'm not surprised at all that they're doing great things. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2012, Your son was on a college visit to Nashville colleges.
I brought him.
Yeah, you brought him. Tell us about it.
Becky normally would take Graham to these college visits, but I think she was sick. And so he wanted to look at some schools here. He wanted to look at Belmont, Tribeca, and Lipscomb. He wanted a faith-based institution to go to. I had never heard of Belmont, honestly. And so I brought him here. We had a nice visit. Shortly after that visit, they were starting the law school. It hadn't been built yet. The founding dean, Jeff Kinsler, called me to ask if I'd be interested in coming to teach here. I said no. Then when I leave Texas, never heard of Belmont, really. So the offer got better. I kept talking. A law firm, Walter Lanston, offered me a job, and Graham decided he wanted to go to school here. So Becky and I said, okay, we'll go to Nashville and see what it's like. And that's how I ended up coming to Belmont Law School and teach. And I started here in the second semester of the law school. We were in a temporary building for 2 years before moving into this building. And then after, I guess, 3 or 4 years, I became the dean. And I've been the dean since then.
And so, Becky.
Our D.C. house sold almost immediately when he got back from that trip after he got the offer from Belmont. And from that moment on, when the house sold, if we had stayed in Texas, we would be buying a house. Yeah. And now I realized we didn't buy a house there because we're supposed to buy a house in Nashville.
Amazing.
And I could see God's hand in the whole thing. And for whatever reason, the hard parts and the good parts have just landed in a way that we're here, and we finally found home. Texas is still home, is our home.
Yeah, we love Texas.
But we love Nashville. It's been good to us. It's a friendly, kind place, and we have great friends here, and our kids have great friends here.
And so 2 of our sons have Belmont degrees, and you heard that Becky has a Belmont degree. Yeah. So Belmont has been extremely generous to us, and we're very grateful.
Very grateful.
So Becky, you, as the judge just said, you earned a master's degree in social work with a focus on trauma treatment, which is interesting. And so I wonder, did your coursework on trauma especially help you process the trauma of what happened to y'all in 2007?
You know, I think it's kind of like when a doctor gets a cold. He can't really help himself very well. No, that's not true. It's helped me a great deal. I really got the trauma treatment certificate because I intended to work with young people. And I did do that during my internships and realized it was not the place I needed to be. It was too hard for me, maybe when I was younger, and but it was, you know, our system, the way our system takes care of children in trouble is lacking, and I couldn't save them, you know, and I just couldn't do it, and so hospice ended up being the right place for me.
Okay.
So I did that, but yeah, the trauma training has helped me in many ways.
I'm sure it has.
It has.
So you've worked now in banking and social work and trauma and hospice. The judge is retiring from his role as dean. What's next for you?
Well, he's still going to work. He's just not going to be the dean at the law school.
Okay.
He'll still consult and travel and
stuff,
speak.
Yeah.
And I've always managed that part of our lives.
Okay.
So I'll still do that. I was helping him bring baseball to Nashville. And I've kind of stepped back from that a little bit because I've got plenty to do. But we'll see. Yeah.
You're about to retire. Looking back, would you do it again? Would you do government service again?
Absolutely.
You'd probably do it sooner and longer.
No, actually, because, look, if you change one thing, then everything else has to change. And so, no. I do have regrets about, I think, some of the way that I handled the accusations. I think I could have handled those better. But, hey, it is what it is. And you learn. From every stumble in life, I think you learn. And you get up and you move on. Yeah. Forward, upward, and up, right, forward and upward.
You've been through a lot together. The two of you have.
Right.
You have this amazing story of faith and love. You've walked through, to quote the 23rd Psalm, the valley of the shadow of death, and emerged to find goodness and mercy on the other side. And I wonder what advice you would give to someone else who's facing their own wilderness.
You know, I would say try to stay optimistic, and but there's a plan, and life, you know, from my perspective, life is just so full of so many setbacks, and sometimes you try something, it fails, you try again, it fails. And you think, why do I keep trying? And you keep trying because the next time, as long as there's hope, the possibility of success, you do that. And with every failure, there's a lesson you learn from every failure. And so from my perspective, persistence is an important trait and something that I learned, I think, from my parents. And so the advice I would give is just keep, I was going to say, I don't know whether to keep your head down or get your head up, but you got to keep moving forward.
An attitude.
Yeah, just know that, okay, got to get through this. It's going to be over. Things are going to get better. And I always had that faith. I've always been a very optimistic person. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it was tough, but I guess I always sense that, hey, I've had some great things have happened in my life. It's gonna happen again. I always had that confidence that it was going to all be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Becky, what about you? What advice would you give?
I would tell someone, find your faith, because none of us are God, and we don't control everything that happens to us. Yeah. It's not possible. So, find what you can believe in, and trust that good and bad are going to happen, because that's life, but you'll get through it. And
some people may wonder, well, how could God allow this to happen? And I'm reminded that, God is not the author of everything that happens on earth. He's the master of the universe, but he's not the author. That's why things happen. Bad things happen. Innocent children die, and you might wonder, how could God let this happen?
Imperfect people, imperfect world.
Yeah, God is not the author of everything that happens on this earth. And so that's just the way it is. And at the end of the day, salvation comes at the end, right? When you die and you're reunited with Christ.
Mm-hmm. Becky, what would you add?
It's pretty good. I don't think I'd add anything.
As you think about your future together, what's next?
Well, we hope to spend more time with our grandkids.
And our children.
And each other. Maybe do a little traveling. But I'm not ready to retire entirely. I think I may end up still having some kind of relationship here at Belmont. Maybe not necessarily with the law school, but with the university generally. Serve on a couple of boards. That'll continue.
Speaking.
Yeah, although I've been very careful at Becky's request about going out and speaking, because it's just hard right now for me to speak publicly and not be critical.
Yeah.
I never want him to get too political when he's doing media, and now he'll be free to do whatever he wants.
Well, but I'll be very measured, of course.
Oh, you're always measured.
Yeah.
Always measured.
Yeah.
But he'll still do a lot of speeches,
mm-hmm.
not just media.
So last question for you, and it is, as best I can tell, you have never sat for a joint interview together, ever, that I can remember.
I will say, at the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
We did an interview about Project Safe Childhood. That's the only time we've ever. Oh, and we have one more. We have one more that we did, and it was during the inauguration
with
Houston,
Sheriff
Fryer, who was our local anchor in Houston, who came up to D.C. for the inauguration and interviewed our whole family.
Oh my goodness!
At breakfast.
Yeah. I remember
so that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so you're not the first.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
the third time in his.
But it's the best one.
Thousands. I only did it because it was you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it immensely.
Yeah, I trust you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you a lot, and I've learned a lot from both of you over the years. What a wonderful thing to hear your story. I appreciate you telling me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't mess it up.
I'll try not to.
Okay. That's what I tell all the youngsters. Don't mess up.
I love that the last thing Judge Gonzales told me was, don't mess it up. That's what I tell all the youngsters. Don't mess up. Well, Mr. Attorney General, I have done my best to take your instructions to heart. A few things struck me during that conversation. The first is something Becky said near the end. She said, "What I always wanted was a home, and he is my home. I've had a home the whole time." Second, I'm struck by all the people who reached out when Attorney General and Becky Gonzales were at their lowest. People who didn't even know them, like a banker in New Orleans or a ranch owner in Dallas. And then some of their closest friends did hang on. Some of their closest friends reached out and said, "We're going to dinner with you tonight on the day you resigned, out on the town where people will see you, will see us together." And I can't help but ask, when my friends are down, when they're facing their darkest days, do I have the presence of mind to reach out with action? Or do I look away because I don't want to face their pain and the possibility of my own pain? If you're a friend and I've left you when you needed it most, I'm really sorry. I want to be the friend who shows up for you. If you're listening to this right now in your own wilderness, I see you. Maybe you're wondering if the people around you will stick, or if the job you're counting on will come through, or if the wilderness will ever end. And I'm going to quote Attorney General Gonzales' dad, "It's got to work out." I'm rooting for you. Next time on Stumbling Blocks, I'm honored to bring you a conversation with Sue Gordon, who spent 30 years at the CIA and rose to become the Deputy Director of National Intelligence, the number 2 intelligence official in the country. Sue personally briefed Presidents Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, and Trump. After stepping down from the job she loved and losing her husband Jim of 43 years, she told me something about a year ago that changed how I face adversity. She said, "The way forward is through unexpected pain and loss. It is the door to what's next. And it's the only door, Jonathan." To be the first to hear that conversation with Sue Gordon, please follow Stumbling Blocks on your favorite podcast app. And if the show is worthy of your time, I'd be grateful if you shared it with a friend or on social media. I'll see you next time on The Stumble.